This is really good for me. It helps me cleanse my head, and I really want to, feel better and, be
My headspace is
and
all over the place. There's proof. She didn't say I'm not his wife. She didn't say who are you talking to. That answers everything I need. He can't come up with an excuse. You have a contact that says wife, and you lied, and now you're smiling and smirking and acting like you don't care.
Can you stop? Can we be serious?
A contact saved as wife should end the conversation in 1 second, but somehow Daniel still finds room to smile, stall, and act like Lisa is the one bringing chaos into the room. That is what makes this mess hit harder. Lisa is not staring at a random red flag. She is staring at the kind of clue that makes every old excuse look cheap, every missing reply feel planned, and every soft promise sound like rented romance. Because once that word shows up on the screen, the question stops being, is Daniel hiding something? The question becomes, how long has Lisa been carrying a relationship that was never carrying her back? And if he once got angry over her divorce, why does he look so casual now? Why did his communication fall off so badly? Why does his energy get sweeter the second pressure shows up? And why does Faith sound like the calm adult while Lisa sounds like the person still trying to survive the story instead of judge it? Welcome back to Sabrine Rose. Subscribe if you like your reality TV messy but your analysis sharp, and drop your take in the comments because I need to know whether you think this contact exposed one lie or blew up the whole relationship in one move, because this is where the mood changes. A lot of people stay stuck on the label wife, and fair enough, that is ugly. But the label is only the spark. The bigger fire is the pattern around it. Lisa has been giving money, time, loyalty, and emotional space to a man who seems most affectionate when he feels heat on his neck. That is not romance. In my opinion, that looks like management. And when a man gets warmer after suspicion shows up, people do not call that healing. People call that damage control. One suspicious contact is bad, but a suspicious contact attached to a whole pattern is where denial starts running out of road. Faith seems to get that already. Lisa is only starting to. And once you notice who is calm, who is cornered, and who suddenly wants to sound sweet again, the contact stops looking like the whole scandal. It starts looking like proof of something worse. Lisa did not fall apart because of one contact name. She was already tired before that screen ever lit up. That matters. She is working 3 jobs, sending money, carrying the emotional weight, and still trying to keep Daniel comfortable, attractive, reassured, and centered. At some point, love stops looking like effort and starts looking like self-erasure. That is the shift this story keeps sneaking up on. The hair issue says a lot more than people think. On its own, a partner having a preference is normal. But this did not land like a casual opinion. It landed like one more reminder that Lisa keeps adjusting while Daniel keeps grading. Then add the money, the weak communication, the way her certainty starts draining out of her voice, and the picture gets ugly fast. She did not move from hope to insecurity overnight. She got pushed there one small compromise at a time. That is why Daniel reads less like a confused boyfriend and more like a man managing reactions. He gives input. He asks for changes. He fades when things are calm. Then the second pressure shows up. The sweetness comes back on cue. That timing is the whole problem. Affection means less when it only arrives during a crisis. When warmth appears only after suspicion, it stops feeling like love and starts feeling like control with better lighting. And the saddest part is that Lisa still sounds like someone trying to save the relationship, while Faith sounds like someone trying to save Lisa. The second the daughter steps into the protector role, this stops feeling like romance and starts feeling like cleanup. Then Faith gets access, and the story stops feeling emotional and starts feeling forensic. One number is odd. Multiple numbers are a system. A strange contact name is ugly. A full contact list with Lisa saved one way, and another number tied to wife chat changes the temperature in the room. You can feel the floor drop, because now the issue is no longer trust in the abstract. Now there are details, patterns, receipts. Still, this is where smart people slow down instead of doing what the internet does best, which is treating suspicion like a signed confession. Does wife chat prove a legal marriage on its own? No. Does it point to something shady, hidden, and hard to explain away? Absolutely. Those are not the same claim, and mixing them up is how people lose the plot. The stronger read is this: the contact does not solve the mystery. It proves the mystery deserves to exist. And then another question gets louder. Why would Daniel hand over access at all? Was he careless? Was he trying to look transparent while assuming nobody would look closely? Or was this one of those reckless moves people make when they think charm will cover whatever facts get exposed later? That possibility is nasty, because it suggests confidence, not innocence. The contact list does not hand Lisa a full verdict, but it does destroy the fantasy that nothing serious is hiding under the surface. Then Faith reaches out trying to get one clean answer from the number. Instead of clarity, she gets shut down. No relief, no simple denial, no normal confusion. And that silence lands harder than a lot of words. The reply from that number is where this stops feeling like random mess and starts feeling cruel. Because a clean situation gives a clean answer. Wrong person, wrong number. You have the wrong idea. Something normal, something direct. Lisa and Faith do not get any of that. They get the door slammed in their face, and that kind of silence lands hard when you already spent time, money, pride, and public emotion on a man who keeps giving fog instead of facts. That is the part people miss when they only focus on whether Daniel has a wife. The deeper wound sits somewhere else. Lisa is not sitting with private doubt anymore. She is standing inside a situation that makes her look foolish in front of her daughter, in front of the audience, and worst of all, in front of herself. After all the waiting, all the sending, all the bending, she is left trying to decode a stranger's refusal to answer a basic question. That is not romance. That is reputational damage with pet names attached. Still, fair is fair. Silence is not proof of a legal marriage. A weird contact name is not a marriage certificate. A shutdown response does not settle every fact. Smart people keep that line clear. But behavior still speaks. A person with nothing to hide usually sounds confused, not defensive. A person caught in somebody else's chaos usually backs away cleanly, not with this weird clipped energy. So no, Lisa does not have a courtroom win. What she has is something more dangerous for a relationship. Pattern plus pressure plus a response that makes innocence sound less believable. Once the outside person refuses the easy denial, the problem stops looking like one bad contact and starts looking like a whole hidden life. So Lisa does what people do when hope finally starts losing to humiliation. She gets ready to confront Daniel, and this time she is not walking into the call with trust. She is walking in with receipts. Then Daniel calls, and the whole mood turns strange for a different reason. He does not come in sounding alarmed, confused, or eager to clear his name. He comes in soft, sweet, complimentary. He notices her look. He tells her she looks good. He suddenly finds his warmth again, and under normal conditions that might sound loving. Under these conditions, it sounds timed. That is why the scene feels off before the real argument even starts. The energy is wrong for the moment. Lisa catches that timing too, and she should. This is the same relationship where communication has been thin, replies have been weak, and she has been left sitting in uncertainty. Now, right after Faith touches the contact issue, Daniel suddenly has charm ready to go. That does not read like a man shocked by a misunderstanding. It reads like a man trying to set the furniture straight before the inspectors walk in. And that is the problem with tactical sweetness. Once you see the pattern, the sugar stops tasting sweet. His work excuse does not help him either. Busy people exist. Long work days exist. Delayed replies happen. Fine. But if work explains the distance, work does not explain the sudden emotional upgrade arriving at the exact moment pressure hits. That is where the logic starts falling apart. If he cared the same way all along, the warmth would have shown up before the scandal, not after. The second affection shows up only when exposure starts closing in. Charm stops looking romantic and starts looking like emergency cleanup. And Lisa is no longer in the mood to be managed through this. She lets the softness pass, holds on to the timing, and brings the conversation to the point he has clearly been trying to delay. She tells him what she saw. Lisa baby on one side, wife on the other. Then the room gets honest. Or at least, it gets tense enough to show who has honesty and who has performance. The second Lisa says what she found, Daniel does what men like this always do when the floor starts moving. He does not answer the point. He attacks the process. He denies, stalls, sounds offended, acts confused, then somehow asks for proof from his own account like Lisa hacked the Pentagon instead of reading what was sitting there in plain sight. And that contradiction is the whole scene. If the contact is fake, why does he not clear it up in one clean sentence? If the number means nothing, why is he wasting energy acting insulted instead of sounding urgent? Innocent people usually want the fire out. Daniel looks more interested in arguing about who smelled smoke. That is where the gaslighting starts earning its paycheck. He behaves like Lisa is unreasonable for reacting to what she saw, which is a cute trick right up until you remember the receipts came from his side. He wants her stuck arguing over whether she is allowed to notice the problem because that keeps him away from explaining the problem. Classic move. Not clever, not original, just familiar. He is basically trying to turn a contact labeled wife into a debate about tone. Sir, no. The issue is not her delivery. The issue is why your phone book sounds like a season finale. And Lisa feels that shift in real time. At first she sounds wounded, exhausted, still half hoping he might say one thing that makes the mess make sense. But he keeps smiling, keeps dodging, keeps wearing that smug little energy that says he thinks he can outtalk the moment. That part matters. Smugness during confusion tells a story. A man hit with a false accusation usually sounds panicked to fix it. Daniel sounds like he is buying time and waiting for her to tire out. Once a man asks for proof of his own mess instead of giving one clear answer, the argument stops being about confusion and starts being about control. And that is the emotional turn. Lisa is not sitting in sadness anymore. Hurt is still there, but something sharper takes over. The woman who sounded crushed starts sounding furious because now she is not only dealing with suspicion, she is dealing with disrespect, and that is the point where fear starts losing ground to anger. This is the part where people love to act superior and say Lisa should have left sooner, as if heartbreak turns everyone into a clean little mathematician. It does not. People stay when they have built a future in their head and spend too much trying to make real life match it. Lisa did not stay because every sign looked good. She stayed because she wanted the signs to lead somewhere. There is a difference. And it is ugly once you see it. Love plays a role, sure, but so does sunk cost. So does loneliness. So does the need to believe all the money, all the waiting, all the public loyalty were leading to something worth the embarrassment. Once you have worked 3 jobs, sent money, defended a man, changed parts of yourself, and kept telling the world this relationship matters, leaving starts to feel like admitting you were feeding a story that never fed you back. That is a brutal thing to face. So people delay. They explain. They hope. They call control a preference. They call distance stress. They call confusion a phase. That is why the hair issue matters. It was never about style alone. It was one more moment where Lisa adjusted and Daniel evaluated. Then the money issue lands on top of that. Then, the earlier woman mess sits in the background like a warning nobody wanted to treat as a warning. Stack all 3 together, and the pattern stops looking random. It starts looking like a relationship where Lisa kept doing the emotional lifting, while Daniel kept deciding how much truth the room could handle. When the daughter sees the pattern faster than the partner, the problem is no longer one bad clue. The problem is how long hope has been covering for reality. And Faith cuts through that fog because she is outside the fantasy. She is not trying to save a dream. Lisa still is. Which brings the hardest question yet. Was she trying to save a future? Or defend a fantasy she had already paid too much for? By this point, Lisa is not only hurt, she is worn down. There is a difference. Hurt still leaves room for repair, for one last explanation, for one more stupid little benefit of the doubt. Worn down means the whole thing has started eating at your dignity. And that is where this stops being a romance mess and starts becoming something harsher. She is embarrassed, exhausted, and tired of being treated like the irrational one, while she is the person carrying the weight, paying the cost, and still begging for plain answers. That is why Daniel's attitude hits so badly here. The denial is one problem. The bigger problem is the disrespect packed inside it. Lisa is standing there with evidence, with a pattern, with months of emotional wear and tear behind her, and he still acts like the main issue is her reaction. That is the insult. Not only the possibility of lying, but the nerve to make her feel foolish for noticing it. Nobody burns out from one bad moment alone. People burn out when confusion becomes routine and self-respect starts getting chipped away in public and in private. Now, fair point. Reality TV edits compress people. Scenes get tightened. Tone gets sharpened. Context gets shaved down for drama. Fine, everyone watching should keep that in mind. But even with that filter, the pattern airing on screen still pushes in the same direction. Distance, control, dodging, sudden sweetness under pressure, and zero clean urgency when the wife contact hits. That is too many pieces pointing at the same mess. Once a woman gets more tired of defending herself than scared of losing the man, the relationship is already standing at the exit. And you can hear the shift in Lisa's voice. She is no longer arguing for understanding. She is no longer warning him to take her seriously. The language gets colder, cleaner, final. This is not doubt talking anymore. This is the sound of someone reaching the point where leaving hurts less than staying. Then the breakup finally lands, and even here the scene refuses to give Lisa the clean relief people love in commentary videos. She says she is done. And on paper, that should feel like the winning moment. It should sound like release. It should sound like the end of a bad investment. Instead, it feels jagged. Because Daniel still does not sound shaken enough. He does not react like a man who thinks he has lost her for good. He reacts like a man who still believes he has another round left in him later. Another excuse, another charm pass, another chance to turn exhaustion back into hope. That is what makes the moment so maddening. Lisa sounds finished. Daniel sounds unconvinced. And that gap between those two energies tells its own ugly story. She is speaking from pain and burnout. He is speaking like this is one more storm to outwait. So the audience gets the breakup beat, but not the peace that should come with it. Closure arrives in the words. Finality does not. Then there is the language problem, and this part matters more than people think. Lisa starts talking about the relationship in terms that sound heavier than a loose long-distance mess. She does not always frame it like a woman discussing some casual engagement floating in the future. At points she talks like the bond already carries the weight of a marriage, emotionally if not legally. That is huge, because words expose mindset. If Lisa has been living inside this as something already sealed in her heart, then the contact labeled wife is not only suspicious, it is humiliating on a deeper level. It crashes into a bond she has already treated like a life decision. And that is why this breakup does not feel simple. She is not only leaving a man, she is trying to rip herself out of a story she had already upgraded in her own mind. That takes longer. That hurts more. That leaves more room for backsliding, second guessing, and one more conversation nobody needs. Saying I'm done is one thing. Believing it enough to stay gone is the part that exposes whether the fantasy is finally broken. So yes, Lisa says the words, yes, the relationship sounds like it has hit the wall. But the real question hangs there, mean and unfinished. Is this over? Or is this only the first time Lisa has said out loud what should have been obvious months ago? By the end, the contact labeled wife still matters, but not for the reason people first think. That label was the spark. The real fire was everything wrapped around it. The money Lisa kept sending. The way Daniel stayed comfortable giving opinions while giving less clarity. The disappearing communication. The sudden sweetness the second pressure arrived. The old pattern of dodging, denying, and surviving through fog instead of facts. And right in the middle of all of it, Faith stepping into the role no daughter should need to play. The grounded one. The watcher. The person trying to protect her mother from a relationship her mother was still trying to protect. That is the payoff. The story was never only about whether one contact exposed a hidden wife. The story was about how many warning signs had already been asking the same question. How long had Lisa been calling confusion commitment? How long had effort been replacing reciprocity? How long had stress been dressed up as love because walking away felt worse than admitting the truth? And that is the hardest part to sit with. The biggest betrayal was not one strange contact sitting in a phone. The biggest betrayal was how normal the instability had started to feel. Once disrespect becomes routine, people stop reacting to the insult and start managing around it. That is how dignity gets chipped down without one dramatic explosion. So the wife contact opened the case, but the pattern delivered the verdict. A relationship built on uneven sacrifice, selective affection, and no straight answers was always heading here. The next question is harsher and a lot more useful. Not whether one number looked suspicious, but whether Lisa finally learns the difference between being chosen and being drained.